Their regret might be completely real, and it might still never reach you. It can be silent, it can be late, it can sit inside them for months and never turn into a single word you'll ever hear. So the question was never really whether they regret losing you. They probably do. The harder question, the one we're actually going to solve today, is why you still need their regret to prove that what you felt was real. And the whole case comes down to one distinction: regret versus repair. Once you can see the difference between those two things, you stop waiting on their apology to set you free. And the chilling moment was never the avoidant walking away. You braced for that. You saw it coming for weeks. The chilling moment is the one that arrives later, when they finally feel the loss, quietly, privately, long after you've already been broken by it. Because what you've been waiting for isn't an explanation, it's proof. Proof that you mattered. Proof that you weren't disposable. So let's start with the part that hurts the most to watch. They leave and they seem fine. Better than fine. They look lighter, calmer, more social. They're out more, posting more, smiling more. They act like the breakup solved a problem instead of creating one. And every time you see it, it confirms the worst thing your mind has been whispering, that you were the problem, that you were too much, that leaving you was easy because you were easy to leave. I need you to hear this clearly, because it's the first piece of the case. Their relief is often real. They're not always faking it, but their relief is not proof that you meant nothing. It's proof that closeness cost them something you were never told the price of. Closeness didn't only feel like love to an avoidant. It also registered, somewhere in the nervous system, as pressure. The pressure to open up, to reassure, to explain themselves, to be needed, consistently, with no exit. When they walked away, all of that lifted at once, and the body reads that sudden drop in pressure as relief long before it ever reads it as loss. So yes, they might genuinely feel free right now, but sit with what that actually means. Their calm isn't evidence the relationship was empty. Sometimes it's just what avoidance looks like in the days before the grief catches up. Before we go any deeper, if this is already describing the exact question you've been carrying, take 1 second to like this video and subscribe to the channel. It tells me which of these cases matter most to you, and it makes sure you're here for the ones coming next. And if you've got a second, comment one word: regret, apology, or return. Which one are you still waiting for? Be honest. That answer is the whole reason this video exists. Now let's get back to it. So here's the line this whole case turns on, the one I need you to actually carry out of here. Their regret may be real, but regret is not repair. Read that again. Regret is not repair. They may regret losing your warmth. They may regret losing your patience. They may regret losing the one person who actually understood them. They may regret losing the way you made a guarded, defended person feel safe. They may regret losing access to a kind of love they never learned how to hold. All of that can be true. And none of it means they've become someone capable of holding it next time, because regret proves they felt the loss. It does not prove they can fix the damage. Those are two completely different things, and the entire heartbreak you're living inside right now comes from confusing them. Now let's get to the real reason you want their regret so badly. Because it was never really about them. Underneath the question, do they regret me? There's a quieter list of things you're actually trying to confirm. That I mattered. That they felt my absence. That they finally saw what they had. That they weren't as cold as they seemed. That the connection was real. That I didn't imagine it. That I wasn't disposable. That I wasn't crazy for loving them the way I did. That it hurt them too. That's what you're reaching for, and I want to honor it, because every item on that list is a fair thing to want. Their regret feels like the missing piece of the story, the proof that the thing you went through actually counted. So here's what their regret can honestly give you. It can confirm the connection affected them. It can confirm your absence was felt. It can confirm they weren't untouched. that you weren't loving a wall. And here's where I have to be straight with you. That's where it stops. Their regret can prove something was lost. It cannot prove they're capable of repair, or consistency, or intimacy, or change. And it was never, ever the thing that got to decide what you're worth. Because waiting for someone else's realization can quietly become another way of abandoning yourself. You walk away from a relationship that wasn't meeting you, and then you keep yourself chained to it, on standby, in case they ever wake up. You left the room, but you never actually left. And the whole time, the one person who could end your pain is the one person you've stopped paying attention to. You. Now, here's where the timeline splits, and it's the part that drives anxious people half mad trying to make sense of it. For you, the breakup hurt immediately. There was no delay, no buffer, no grace period. The silence felt like abandonment from the first hour. The empty phone felt like rejection. Every day with no message felt like humiliation, like a verdict, like quiet confirmation that they never cared at all. Your grief showed up the second they left, and it moved into every room of your life. Theirs didn't. This is the part nobody explains to you. You grieved the loss of the connection. They were busy being relieved by the loss of the pressure. Same breakup, two completely different first reactions, not because your love was real and theirs was fake, but because the same closeness that felt like home to you felt like a demand to them. So while you're falling apart, they're exhaling. While you're reaching for proof that it mattered, they're enjoying the first quiet they've felt in months. And the gap between those two timelines is exactly what makes you feel insane, replaceable, and alone. You're not insane. You're just earlier. You felt the truth of what was lost before they were ready to. So, here's the turn in the case. When does the relief finally crack? Not when you look good online, not out of jealousy, not because of some dating tactic or some clever no-contact strategy you ran, and not simply because enough time passed. The regret begins at the precise moment their relief stops working. Watch how it moves. At first the silence feels free, easy, like room to breathe. Then it just feels quiet. Then it starts to feel empty, and then, eventually, it starts to feel permanent. That's the turn. The regret starts exactly where the relief ends. Here's the mechanism underneath it. While they were still with you, they couldn't grieve the connection, because they were too busy treating it as a threat. You can't mourn something you're actively defending yourself against. The loss only becomes available to them once the danger feels gone, once the alarm finally switches off, and by then, you're not there anymore. The silence does something else too. In the beginning, silence protected them. No hard conversations, no vulnerability, no expectations, no one asking them to explain, to show up, to be accountable. But silence doesn't stay a shield forever. Slowly, it turns into a mirror. The absence of your voice gets loud. The absence of your patience gets loud. The absence of someone who actually saw them gets loud. And one day it lands. The thing they escaped from was also the thing that made them feel grounded and chosen and known. The silence they used to protect themselves becomes the silence that shows them exactly what they lost. Now, let's talk about what you're actually picturing when you imagine this moment. Because I know the fantasy, most anxious people carry the same one. You picture the realization hitting them all at once. A long message at midnight, a tearful phone call, a confession, a knock at the door, the big cinematic line, "I made the biggest mistake of my life." You picture the person who seemed so cold finally cracking open and feeling the full weight of what they threw away. I'm not going to mock that fantasy, because it isn't stupid, it's human. You want the pain to mean something. You want the imbalance corrected. You want the world to hand you one clean scene where everything you felt gets confirmed out loud. But here's the truth, and it's a colder one. Avoidant regret almost never looks like a movie. It's quieter than that, lonelier than that, more private than that. It tends to happen alone, at night, when the distractions finally stop working. It happens after the new routine stops feeling exciting. It happens when no one's watching and there's no one to perform for. It usually isn't a grand gesture. It's a low, private ache they may never admit to a single person, including you. Avoidant regret is rarely a performance. It's usually an ache, and an ache, on its own, doesn't knock on your door. So once the regret does land, what actually happens next? It doesn't all lead to one place. After regret sets in, an avoidant tends to go down one of three roads. Road 1, they grow. And I'll be honest with you, this one is rare, but it's real, and it does happen. They take the pain of losing you, and they actually turn it inward. They look at the pattern. They notice it wasn't just this relationship, it was the one before, and the one before that. They get honest about the fear of being close. Some of them get into therapy. They take responsibility without being chased for it. And whether or not they ever come back to you, they genuinely change. This is the only road where regret becomes something more than a feeling. It's also the road you have the least control over, which is exactly why you can't sit and wait on it. Road 2. They reach out, but only to self-soothe. This one's far more common, and it's the one that confuses anxious people the most. They reach out, but not to repair anything. They reach out because they miss the comfort, the reassurance, the warmth, the feeling of being understood that you used to give them for free. You know what it looks like. Hey, hope you're doing okay. Been thinking about you lately. Saw something that reminded me of you. A random meme, a vague half apology that never actually names what they did. A check-in that floats in out of nowhere after weeks or months of complete silence. And it feels like the moment, it feels like proof. So let me be very clear about what it usually is. A message is not automatically repair. Sometimes it's just their discomfort looking for somewhere familiar to land. They might be testing whether the door's still open, checking whether you still care, looking for relief from their own guilt, trying to feel close to you again without doing any of the actual work that closeness asks for. The text feels like the start of something. For them, it's often just the end of their discomfort. Road 3. They regret you in silence and do nothing. This is the one almost nobody talks about, and it might be the most common of all. Silent regret. They feel the ache. They miss what they had. They think about you more than you'd ever believe. They carry it, privately, sometimes for a long time, and they do nothing with it. No message, no apology, no explanation, no change. They stay exactly where their fear, their shame, and their pride have always kept them. Sit with this one, because it's the hardest to accept. Their regret can be completely real and still never become a way back to you. It can live and die entirely inside them. You can be missed deeply by someone who never lifts a finger to tell you. So if you're still waiting for the moment where their regret finally proves everything, this next part is the one that decides whether it ever could. This is where regret and repair split apart, and learning to tell them apart will protect you for the rest of your life. Because regret is a feeling, repair is a choice, and that choice has a name: accountability. Regret says, I feel bad. I miss what I lost. I wish things had gone differently. I don't like sitting with how this turned out. Repair, real accountability, says something completely different. It says, I understand what I did. I understand how it landed on you. I'm willing to talk about the harm without making you manage my guilt while I do it. I'll respect your boundaries even when they're inconvenient for me. I'll change how I behave over time, not just in the first emotional week. And I'm not asking to be let back in simply because I got lonely. See the difference? Regret happens inside them. Repair shows up in how they treat you. One is something they feel, the other is something they do. This is why so many anxious people get pulled back into something that breaks them all over again. A regretful text arrives, and they read it as repair. But feeling bad isn't the same as making amends. Missing you isn't the same as being safe for you. And until the regret turns into changed behavior, you can actually see, over time, it's just a feeling they're having about you, not a reason to reopen anything. And I know what's happening in your head while you listen to this, because it's a war and it runs on a loop. Do they regret losing me? Did I mean anything at all? Were they ever actually attached? Or was that just me? Are they happier now? Was I too much? And if they do regret it, then why haven't they said anything? And if they did reach out, would that even mean they'd changed? Should I wait? Should I move on? What if they finally get it the moment I'm gone for good? What if I give up 1 week before they come back? What if they regret it for years and never say a word? What if I never get the proof I need? I'm not going to shame you for a single one of those questions. They're not weakness. After an avoidant breakup, an anxious mind goes hunting for evidence because the not knowing feels unbearable, so it scans everything. Their social media, old messages, what the mutual friends say, the tone of a 2-word reply, anything that might finally settle the question. But notice what the searching actually does. It never brings you peace. It brings you one more clue, which buys you 1 more hour, which sends you straight back out looking for the next one. Every hunt for proof ties you a little tighter to their timeline instead of your own. And the moment their regret becomes the thing you're waiting on to set you free, you've handed your freedom to the one person least likely to give it back. Let me show you the whole cycle in one piece, so plainly you won't be able to unsee it. They leave, they seem relieved, you're destroyed, you start searching for proof that they cared, you imagine their regret, you check for signs of it, you wait for the message, and while you wait, you quietly put your own recovery on hold. Meanwhile, maybe they regret it in silence. Maybe they never say anything at all, or maybe they reach out one day without having changed a thing, and you're still standing exactly where they left you, waiting for something inside them to come and rescue something inside you. That's the loop. Find your place in it, because that's the part that matters. So let's bring this all the way home, because the answer you walked in here for was never going to be enough, and I think part of you already knows that. You came in asking, do they regret losing me? I want you to walk out asking better questions, like, if they do regret it, what would that honestly change? Am I waiting for their regret, or their repair, or just permission to move on with my life? What part of me still believes that if they realized my worth, it would finally make me feel like enough? And can I let go of using someone else's slow, private, unreliable inner process as the final verdict on my value? Here's the verdict I'd actually give you. As someone who's looked at this exact case more times than I can count, you are not defined by whether they regret losing you. You are defined by whether you keep abandoning yourself while you wait to find out. Their regret was never going to be the proof. The connection was real because you lived it, not because they eventually got around to feeling it too. And once you can tell regret from repair, you stop needing their silence to give you an answer. You stop waiting for the message that may never come. You stop handing the final word to someone who was never qualified to give it. So the question isn't whether they regret losing you anymore. They might. They quietly might. The real question is whether you're willing to keep losing yourself while you wait for them to realize it. Because here's the chilling moment that actually matters. Sometimes the avoidant finally feels the full weight of losing you at the exact moment you finally stopped living inside it. They reach back for the connection right as you let it go. And when that happens, the realization isn't only theirs anymore, it's yours. The difference is, yours sets you free. I have been the relationship detective, and thank you for watching. If this helped you see things more clearly, please give it a like, leave a comment, and subscribe to the channel. I wish everyone watching all the best, and I hope to see you again in the next one.